Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We have the minutes of 2 months of meetings to approve. There was no quorum last month, so we didn't approve the minutes. Let's start with July. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the July meeting?
I'll motion to approve.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we'll say that the July meetings were approved. Then we'll move on to the August meeting. Trying to think how many people we have from the August meeting here tonight.
I think just me and you, Jay. I think it's just Vince and Patty also.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not.
It was everybody was out of power that night.
Right.
Yeah, storm.
Well, let's see if we can remind me to come back to that when they come on at 8:30. That way we can have everybody that's here at the time do so. Cynthia, did you want to go over any action items?
I think a lot of them are on tonight's meeting minutes, but I'll run through them just so that other people can hear what went on or what we decided. We're voting maybe tonight on the sign for the wildlife collection. The large tree leaning across, you said already fell down, so that's not an issue anymore. The roadways at Fernbrook and the Chestnut Hill access says it has both suffered severe erosion. And I think on this night's meeting, you said that has been taken care of as well. Right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to double check so I can say, okay, it's finished. And the Sherfield Field infield mix, that was a BOS decision. So we are not doing anything about it, but we made it up for the BOS. I think they took care of that as well.
Okay.
Sorry, just a few more. That you sent us a new plan for Deegan Field, and we're also reviewing that tonight. And some about education that we're doing that tonight. I just want to, one thing I want to make sure I say is the incomplete action items from prior minutes, and I think it's like now in prior, but I just want to say them so they're spoken of. The updated SAP form, I know that was happening. Is that finished and I can remove that from this action item list?
I think Erica just sent it out to Jim. So it should be, it's in the process. I know it's been sent out, but I don't know that it's approved.
All right, and then we had on our list kind of that there were 2 decking boards on the Oaks cabin ramp that were rotted. Is that's just still something that's waiting around, right?
Yes.
Leave it on. Okay. And then the 2 windows in the beach cabin, they're still broken. I'm guessing, right? I haven't been over there. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll leave those on the action items. And that's all for August.
So would it be easier just to push it over to Vince's maintenance list?
I'll do that.
Yeah, that way rather than the minute, we'll put it on there, and if it needs to be addressed, we can address it again from the maintenance list.
Perfect. I'll do that. All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kelly sent out the electronic copies of the financial summaries. Any questions or comments?
None.
Okay, we'll then move on to the Pottstown Regional Recreation Committee. The Board of Supervisors approved a resolution for the intergovernmental agreement to reorganize the park as a standalone organization. This could happen as soon as October. I believe there's 2 of the 7 municipalities that still have to do the formal agreement signatures, and then that will move forward. Number 2, for the regional parks, a grant extension was requested and submitted for the Pottstown Metropolitan Regional Planning Committee Riverbend Park Playground Grant. Expired on 8/31. So I'm assuming that that shouldn't be a problem getting an extension. We're almost done. It's just a formality. Number 3, grant application will be filed for a $10,000 PICO region, Green Region grant to cover engineering on the Schuylkill River Trail, Kenilworth Trailhead. The Pottstown Health and Wellness Foundation grant will be used as matching funds for that. The deadline for application, I think that is October sometime. And number 4, for the regional parks, Erica approved the updated 5-year project list from our conversations during the August meeting. So that was sent out this afternoon to everyone. Okay. Any questions or comments regarding the regional parks? Okay, we'll move on then to the Open Space Review Board. John's not on the meeting. Erica, do you have a report on that? Anyone? Okay, I would say there's no report. We'll move on to deer management. Carl, do you have a report for deer management?
The only thing I can report is we're done the qualifying. We had, I think, only a total of 24 or 26 archers that applied and qualified. So we were going for 30. We didn't have 30 applications. So we had the number was 24 or 26 that qualified. That was all that had applied this year. So we're moving forward with that right now.
Actually, I think 26 is fine for that much acreage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That
that's.
was the goal, to increase the acreage per hunter. So I think now we have approximately 16 acres or so per hunter, and not equal amounts in each zone, which because all the zones are different acreage. So I think we're moving toward a better arrangement of hunters in each zone.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Okay, we'll move on to the park calendar and SAPs. I don't believe there's anything notably on the park calendar or any new SAPs. Volunteer hours, other than the commission members, we had the Cedarville United Methodist Church did 36 hours of facilities, which was the water bars on the Chestnut Hill Trail. Okay, that completes the administrative portion of the meeting. We'll move on to facilities. Cynthia got quotes for 3 different types of sign materials: aluminum, Diabond, and a yard sign. The aluminum is $55, the Diabond $23, and the yard signs $13. We have Diabond signs at a couple points along the Coventry Trail. They've been there for a number of years and they look brand new. They've held up real well. They were put in at the Cedar Mill Crossing subdivision for those trail entrances. So I think that would be a good option. It's certainly less expensive than the aluminum and I think would hold up well. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
I
You
agree
know
with
more
you,
about
Jay.
that probably than anybody, so I defer to you on that one.
Yeah. That sounds good, Jay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Looking at that, I mean, I wouldn't say research, but what I read a little bit seemed like the Diabond would be just fine.
Yeah.
Maybe agree.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, I think that the Diabond, I agree. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is there a motion to use Cynthia's sign design and get, what was the number that we discussed? Was it four signs, Cynthia, do you recall?
I don't recall what number we discussed, but I know they said they can do 4. So if we do 4 or if we do 5, we may as well do 8. I think they do 4 at a time. Can you guys hear me
So you
okay?
have to order
Yeah.
multiples of 4.
Yeah. So I think if 4 is enough, 4 will be great.
That would give us all 3 pond areas.
Okay.
Or all 4 pond areas. So somebody want to make a motion for 4 Diabond signs with Cynthia's sign design?
All motion.
Hang on. Sorry, Sarah. I just remembered one thing we discussed last time, and that was what website to put on there. Jay, do you remember? Did we already figure out what we wanted to do? Let me cruise through these last week's meeting minutes. I remember I had put down there to visit North Coventry's website, and Patty suggested that we use the Fish and Boat Commission website. So I just want to make sure I point that out, that in what I sent out before said North Coventry website, and I'm not going to use that. I think, Jay, if you remember, we all said like, okay, we'll just use that one, or maybe you remember differently than
Yes.
Yep.
My concern is
Mhm.
with the Game Commission or the Fish Commission, they're dealing with the state regulations, not necessarily things that would be our regulations, because they had to do with park ordinances.
Mhm.
So, basically the state would be saying, yes, you can shoot deer, you can do everything the Game Commission allows, and that's not really true in our
Okay.
parks.
So-
So I think we decided to go with the township or the township website, which would have our ordinance for the parks.
So should I just leave that on there, that they should just go to North Coventry website? Because it'll just link them to the ordinances. That's good enough? I don't mean,
Yes.
I shouldn't direct them directly to the ordinances,
No.
right? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can figure it out, or they can, I think
Or
the
they can
township,
call. Yeah.
it
Call
tries to
Jay.
connect them to our community.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, sounds like it was unanimously passed. Thank you, Cynthia, for doing that design work. Okay, we'll move on to Coventry Woods. Public Works Department removed multiple large trees that had fallen at Fernbrook during the recent storms. So there's actually quite a volume of wood to come out of the lawn areas. It did take down some wires. One of the poles is down too. So we're going to have to address that at some point, how we want to rehang those wires. We'll have to probably do a little research on what direction we go there before we can make a decision.
Where were they, Jay? This is Colleen. Which trees came down?
It was a big tulip that came down out of the woods and kind of came across the volleyball area,
Okay.
which is kind of where we do like the games and everything,
Right.
the events. So it took out the one pole that had a light on it, and of course connected wires to the other light poles. So
Right. Okay.
it was the one kind of on the southwest side of the area, I guess. Okay,
All right.
number 2 for Coventry Woods. Public Works Department also regraded the Fernbrook Lane and the Chestnut Hill access after erosion caused by the recent storms. So they were chewed up pretty bad. Thank you to John for getting that in good shape again. He said especially at Chestnut Hill, there's getting to be a shortage of material that, he's really running out of stone to try and regrade it and fill in the ruts. So, if we don't move forward in the near future with truly stabilizing that area, we're certainly going to have to bring in stone to restabilize. He's just running out of material to work with. So But it's in good shape now. So thank you, John, for that. Number 3, Coventry Woods. The leaning tree that was addressed during the last meeting was coming off a park property across the road. It was going to be removed by M&M. Doesn't have to be because it fell on its own. Thankfully, didn't hit anyone or anything of value. Number 4, wet conditions on the Pigeon Creek Trail are creating increased impact in the riparian buffer. The area where the trail was is really wet. It just hasn't been drying out there. People are walking now closer to the creek itself, and they're starting to impact the stabilization of the creek bed a little bit. So I think we might want to evaluate the addition of a boardwalk so we can protect that high quality stream. Is there anyone that would like to kind of be part of taking a look at that?
What section is it exactly where?
So right after you cross the bridge from the side of the driveway toward where the bench is and going to the
Off of the big parking lot there?
yes, yep, into the wooded area. It's the first, like you come off the bridge, there's 10 feet that's in good shape, and then the next 100 feet kind of curving and going up to the bench is what's wet. I would imagine we could just lay down 4x4s and put some decking boards across would be the best option, but
For 100 feet? Or
probably close to it, yes. That's without taking measurements. That's just an estimate, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay. I'll take a look at it with the mountain bike team and some people involved and see what we come up with.
Well, it's not a trail. It's approved for the mountain bikes.
No, that's
So,
fine though. That's
yeah,
fine.
I don't know if you want to ask them to work on something they can't ride on, but
It's all good.
certainly I can meet you out there too to take some measurements or whatever. So let me know if it's something that you want me to come out. We can certainly do that if
Okay.
they aren't interested in addressing that. But thank you, Carl.
Like 4 feet wide, 3 feet wide. What are you thinking?
3 is a minimum. A little wider would probably be nice,
Right.
but certainly 3.
Is
Okay.
it something it's always wet or just now? Like, is it potentially something that maybe we could try a little lime on to dry it up?
There was a from after the river or after the creek bank, there was a little low spot, and then there was a high spot. And the high spot has been kind of grown over with stilt grass, and it's actually been wet too. It hasn't been dry. But people started walking through the low spot, which is now really wet. So they're moving over closer to the creek. So I kind of thought about, just putting loads of wood chips to try and raise that high spot up a little higher. But, in a storm situation, I don't know that we want to be putting a lot of wood chips in there. And I don't know that lime would be quite enough to dry it out. I really don't see a whole lot of other options other than the boardwalk. And Patty looked at it; she kind of felt the same way. So we'll see what anybody else thinks and address that again next month. Okay, we'll move on to number 5. Erosion from the recent storms also impacted the tread conditions on the Chestnut Hill Trail between the Chestnut Hill access and the Love Valley Trail. That section was really pretty new trail, and the first 5-6 years it was there, it was doing really good, but now it's just getting a little bit of channelization to it, and it's last couple storms have beat it up pretty badly. So I think we need to address getting some water bars in there. Again, if anybody'd like to kind of play a part in that, let me know. But we can go out and kind of pick some locations, paint them out, and then make a plan of what we need to do to fill them in. Historically, we've done a lot of rock water bars. More recently, Vince has been making the ones out of the rubber matting, which is certainly nicer for the mountain bikes. So we'll have to address how we want to do that. Everybody, please put some thought into it. And maybe Carl, if you want to talk to the mountain bike team about that, maybe we could make some of the rubber mat style and get that stabilized.
Okay. The Chestnut Hill Trail and the Love Valley Trail, where they meet?
Now it's the whole way down the hill, like from the pavilion at the Chestnut Hill access,
Right.
coming all the way down the hill. Really, once you get to that little stone swale, it's not bad after that. It's getting closer to the Love Valley Trail is pretty good. It's mostly the first 2/3 of the hill.
Okay. The first trail on the right there, going past the pavilion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know. I can try to meet somebody out there too. Some of the labor just be getting the rubber in between the wood and getting some channel cut to sink it into.
Okay.
Labor would be real helpful with that. Okay, move on to number 6 for Coventry Woods. There were 2 complaints received about a large number of spotted lanternfly on the Rock Run Trail near Pennswalk Way. There's one ailanthus tree on Hill School property, but there's about 6 in a patch on our side of the road, or on our property on the other side of the road. John, is there any way you think that sometime this fall you'd be able to drop those trees and paint the stumps?
Yeah, I just have to look at them and make sure like we can drop them and there's no wires or they're going to hang in other trees.
There's no wires on that side at all. 5 of them are pretty small, and there was kind of it's a disturbed area. There was a little clearing there at one time, and it's, the whole little clearing's grown in with looks to be from the road. It looks like about 6 ailanthus. Only one of them is really big, so there's only one of them that would be a problem to drop. But I
Hey,
think there's
Jay?
a little room. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's Colleen. I have a question about the ailanthus trees. Has any research or proof been shown that actually taking down those trees lessens the spotted lanternfly? Because I know they've been adapting to other trees, and it's almost like, if those trees, the ailanthus trees, were left, would they actually leave other trees or other berry bushes alone? Has there been any research on that? Because I mean, they just seem to adapt to anything. You take down the ailanthus trees and they just move on to the next one.
So they definitely feed on at least 75 to 100 different plants.
Right.
Ailanthus is their preferred method of feeding, especially as adults. Sometimes as juveniles, they'll feed more on other things as nymphs. The recommendation is, there's a couple recommendations. One is to remove all females and 90% of males, leaving some trap trees to draw them in and treat with systemic herbicides and kill the bugs.
Right.
Or there's other recommendations just to remove all the ailanthus, but definitely removing ailanthus makes a difference.
Okay. I was just curious whether or not it made a difference.
They're very drawn to that, and it seems that populations don't get near as out of hand if they don't have ailanthus as a source. there was a thought for a while, do they need Atlantis as part of completing a life cycle? And in the years they've been here, there's only been 1 year where they've been able to complete a life cycle in captivity without Atlantis. So it's still a little bit of a question is how much they really need it.
Okay.
Last year's research said they can survive without it, but it appears it is a very strong desire and is important to them.
Well, they're loving my sycamore trees. I got to tell you that.
Yeah,
So-
they're hard on maples. There's a lot of things they're hard
Yeah.
on. I know
Okay.
it, and it actually even in Lanthus on Chester Valley Trail last year when we sprayed the Xylam as the systemic herbicide, we used 5 tanks of spray on the trail. So many Atlantis trees have died just from stress. They weren't treated. It only took 1 tank this year.
Okay.
It's just been a massive amount of dieback because it's just sucking the sap right out of them.
Yeah. I was just curious as to whether it chases them to something else or if it's actually doing it, taking down the Atlantis. But all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, move on to Hanover Meadows. Vince isn't here right now, so we'll see when he comes in if he has any more information on the bat box design, and we can come back to that. Also want to thank Vince for removing the purple loosestrife out of the meadows at Hanover Meadows. He did it in August before any seeds matured. I gotta say, that meadow is really looking nice. The upland meadow on the uphill side of the trail, the warm season grasses are just doing an outstanding job of maturing. No invasives whatsoever. The wet meadow on the downhill side, we're getting New York ironweed popping up there on its own. And other than that, the real threat was that loosestrife, which you got out of there. There's a little bit of multiflora rose, but really looking good. So we dodged the bullet on that one. Okay, moving on to number 3. We had planned the ribbon cutting for Hanover Meadows, I think it was May 2nd, and it was postponed due to the COVID pandemic. No date was chosen for the rescheduling, but given the current national and regional guidelines, we're kind of limited. There certainly is room there to do some distancing. There's a lot of open space that we could have some type of ceremony, but the option is also there to do a virtual ceremony. Jim Marks feels that there's enough internet access strength that we could actually broadcast something live, that we wouldn't have to request people to come out. What's the thoughts on that? Kind of like to do it now. I hate to see the park be open for 2 years before we
Yeah, I would,
cut
yeah,
the
go ahead and
ribbon.
do it now, then do it virtual. That's how I see it. Do it virtual now.
I don't know. I kind of hate all this virtual crap. So I would go for something with social distancing, but and I mean, you could certainly do it both ways, right? I mean, you could
Yeah.
broadcast the social distancing ceremony. Whoever wants to show up can show up and behave, and then everyone else can watch it.
I think last time we were kind of planning on having some small refreshments and things like that. I think it's the refreshments that we need to probably pass on. That would be gathering people in small areas. But, if we did a small, short walk around the meadow and a ribbon cutting, and then, again, made that virtual as well, I think we could do, a little bit of in-person as long as we keep our physical spacing and record that to be a virtual ceremony as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk to Jim again and see what his time schedules look like for doing all that taping, scheduling, whatever it takes to make that happen for a virtual meeting as well as live.
I like that idea.
I agree.
Okay. We're moving on really quick here. Okay, Kenilworth Park. Michael Lane compiled some data from the visitor counters at the disc golf course. They were up there from March 30th through August 24th. Daily counts varied from basically 58 today to 112 per day. When you look at the monthly counts, the high month was just under 3,500 and the low month was just over 2,000. So now
That's
the
great.
May, that 3,500 could be a little high because there's still a lot of people off work that, you know, might have been out playing disc golf because they weren't working their normal schedules. But, you know, it gives us an idea of what kind of visitorship we have there.
Hey Jay, does that help Michael then use those numbers for grants? Is that why we did that counting?
I think we just did it for our curiosity.
Okay.
A grant could, you know, if you're getting real high numbers, you could use that as just some evidence, some data that it's a very popular place. But I don't know that we're applying for any grants for that at this point right now anyway. So it's probably just more for our information and curiosity. The counter has been moved to Hanover Meadows now. So beginning August 24th, it's up there. And again, we'll get some data as to what the visitorship is at Hanover Meadows. Okay. For Kenilworth Park, the community building has old steel framed single pane glass windows. They're real drafty. Actually, in the winter time, they get ice on the inside of the windows. I got a couple quotes for replacing the windows with side sliding double pane glass. Like to make the thought on the table that we use funding for 50% of the cost from the park project fund, which is what used to be the Fernbrook Fund and has now been kind of redone to be eligible for all the parks, and then ask the Taekwondo school to do the other 50%. The first quote, where's my numbers on that? Shoot. You know what? They're in another room right now. I'm sorry. The one quote was about just over $3,000. The other quote was just over $7,000. I forget the exact numbers. I could go look at it. It's basically $595 a window from JDT Construction and $1,370 from Keystone Windows.
And why is such a difference? Is one
Right.
installed by them and the other not? Does one include installation and removal of the windows?
No, they both include the same thing. The cheaper one's actually a brother-in-law of one of the students, and they're gonna get some free labor out of doing the demo work. So it's kind of a semi-family rate with some free labor to do the demo portion.
Were they bidding on the same windows? I mean, the same window type to install?
Same type in the sense that it was a vinyl replacement, double pane glass, side slider, half screen.
Okay.
So I don't know about,
Same manufacturer.
I don't know about the same, no, that I couldn't say.
Hey Jay, maybe you can just forward the quotes to us or to me and I can link them into the minutes and everyone can take a look at them.
Okay. Yeah, I meant to have the exact numbers here. Like I said, it's in the other room right now. And
Yeah,
So-
I'd be curious as to like what warranties are with it also.
okay.
How much money is in that park fund? Do you know offhand?
60,000. It's all the money that was raised from the all the bonfires and all the Coventry Woods festivals,
Okay.
because that's never been touched. We've been doing 12 years of events and haven't touched it once, so it's over 60,000.
Maybe we can get a lot with that.
What's that?
Maybe we can get a lot done with that.
Yeah, well, we need to. I mean, obviously, we need to use it responsibly, but we can begin to use that money. We can use it now in any parks, not just Fernbrook. So, it is an option to us. I'd kind of like to move this forward tonight, simply because winter's coming. I want to get it done before then. Is anybody comfortable in moving forward tonight?
I'm not comfortable until we see the quotes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more information, the quote, and to see what type of warranty that they're offering or they have for the window, the manufacturer too.
Okay.
I mean, it does make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so let's try to look at that maybe this week and give Jay an answer
Yeah, I agree.
by the end of next week or by middle of this coming week, so he can move forward one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll try and email that out to everyone. I can take a photograph. The one quote was electronic. It was in an email. So that one I can just forward. And the other was a written quote that I can take a photograph of and then email that out. So it'll probably be two separate emails, but I can get those quotes out this week sometime.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you don't think that can wait for a decision till the October meeting?
It could, but it's going to start getting cold. I want to let these people know. I don't know how long it takes to get in their schedule. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be tearing all the windows out, in the middle of winter.
Right.
I mean, if we could do it in the middle of or the beginning of October and schedule it for some time in the first couple weeks of October, then that would probably be fine. I just don't want to wait till
Right.
November.
I'm
December.
just wary about I try to not do as many email votes. I like to
I
be doing
really don't
meeting.
want to do that.
You know what, Jay? If
Slippery
you
slope.
can, just a suggestion too, if you can get some sort of estimate as to when they would be available to do it also, maybe you could include that with the information you're going to send us. Is that possible?
Yeah, as much as you get somebody that does construction to,
I know. I know.
nail
That's
that
why I
down.
said sort of an estimate,
Yeah.
And if not, that's fine. But if they say, yeah, give us an answer now and we can have it in the first week of October, that's great if that's what we decide.
Right.
But
Okay.
yes, just a suggestion.
All righty. Okay, we'll move on to River Bend Park. The tree planting plan was amended to remove the trees from the Badorf Field area of River Road, and a revised plan was sent out. That was a concern raised, I think it was by Cynthia, regarding what the spacing between the road and the actual athletic field, and if that would become a problem. Never did, do any measurements, but it's really almost as easy as to take that out and not address it at this point and be able to wait on it. If we can get the other trees planted, we're still creating some buffer. We're getting those trees to grow, and everybody have a chance to take care of that or look at that and see if there's any thoughts.
I did not.
I'm just happy that the trees aren't in the right field, right behind the first baseman. I think it looks good.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Again, we're kind of on a time crunch here because we have to get some quotes and get for a fall planning. So we'd be looking at, October, November planning has to be done. So we don't really have time to push this off. Anybody want a motion to?
I'd make the motion, Jay, and I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we'll try to get some quotes on that, and hopefully for the October meeting have quotes, and then be able to get the planting done October, November. Number 2 for Riverbend Park. Thank you again to John and the Public Works crew. They regraded the Bador Field parking lot to improve drainage. There was a low spot kind of near the pavilion that was making a puddle in a lot of cases. So that's been regraded, and hopefully we'll have some dry parking area there now. Okay, moving on to Riverside Park.
Sorry, Jay.
Oh,
Sorry, Jay.
go
Real
ahead.
fast. Everybody, the Riverbend Playground is almost coming to a close, except that Curry Grove didn't receive the instructions or the hardware for the most recent and last pieces of equipment. So we're ironing that out, and as soon as they get that out, it ought to be finished. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Oh, thank you.
Good thing. Hopefully, maybe in our August meeting, we can say that it's completed. Okay, a gentleman called and inquired about donating a memorial bench at Riverside Park. I believe it's in honor of his mother-in-law who recently passed. His kids play in the park a lot. Just thought it would be nice to have, a bench with her name on it that they could help to upgrade the park along with remembering the family. We don't really have a bench standard for that park. However, a majority of the benches are the same type of the classic cement frame with slats. Now, the older two that are not at the playground, but at trees near the playground, are that design with wooden slats. The one on the basketball courts is that design with plastic lumber slats. There's also 2 wooden backless benches over by the boat launch. I guess if I was making a recommendation, I would say go for something like the one that's on the basketball court. It's the wooden frame with the plastic lumber slats, gray in color. It was actually one that was a grant from Giant Food Stores that was donated through the Girl Scouts.
Right. Did you say wooden frame? It's Colleen.
No, the concrete frame.
That's
the 2
what I thought.
sides
It's the
are the
concrete frame. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I would suggest.
with using plastic lumber for the slats.
Right.
Now, the 2 that are there, and they were asphalted in place, which kind of brings its own set of problems to doing any work on them. But they could probably be upgraded to plastic slats if we chose to do so. Does anybody else have thoughts on what might be an option for that?
I would agree with the concrete frames.
Yeah.
And the plastic slats.
And gray in color?
Yes, keep it all the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Colleen. Yes.
So we'll say the bench standard would be a plastic concrete side frames with gray plastic lumber slats. And then
Now
we
is
can
he,
price
I'm
out,
sorry.
you know, we'd have to price it out and tell him, you know, what we want and see if that's, you know, within his price range or whatever. You know, we didn't discuss any of that because we didn't have a bench standard.
Jay, it's Colleen. So he's inquiring about a donation of a memorial bench. Is he putting a plaque on there? Is that what he's planning to do?
I'm sure
Yes,
he
we'd
is.
like to do that.
So that would have to also come through to be approved by Parks and Rec before he puts it on?
Yeah, we'd have to make sure the wording is, I mean,
Okay,
obviously couldn't be anything inappropriate.
right,
You know,
right.
name or
Or
whatever.
big or outrageous or anything. Not saying that anybody would do that, but as long as he's aware that something would have to go through Parks and Rec as far as the memorial piece to put on the bench also. I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea to see people do that.
The one at the basketball court actually has the Giant logo on it. It's kind of like at the top slide of the backrest and about the middle, and you know, it's not large,
Right.
but you know, it's certainly a way they're popular. People really do a lot of bench donations in parks to honor their loved ones. It's
Yep.
It's something that we can hopefully improve our parks with.
Okay.
Okay, we'll check on costs, and I'll talk to the gentleman again, and but at least we have a bench standard. Okay, Shankle Park. Okay, John did some drawings and quotes for installation of the parking lot off of Shankle Road. That was sent out prior to last month's meeting. Because we didn't have a quorum, we couldn't take any action on it. In summary, it was $800 worth of materials, which is all a 2A modified stone. Because that's an open space purchased property, the township's policy is to charge man hours, labor, and equipment hours to the open space fund. So John's basically planning on 2 days of labor, 2 8-hour work days, you know, X number of hours on the backhoe, the roller, different trucks for hauling the stone and whatnot. So it comes out to $800 in stone and $5,940 worth of equipment and labor. And that would be from the open space fund. If we do that, we can, you know, get this opened up and allow the public to invite them to start using it. We do have a couple issues there that I think would be beneficial to get that park open. There's some ATV use, and there's also hunting use going on. The Game Commission's gotten multiple complaints over the years about hunting, but every time they get there, the hunters in question are gone. So they've really kind of been going there for complaints, but not getting anything. So I think to open it to the public, have more eyes, more ears, more people around is going to help not only help our residents to use the park, but help some of the other agencies in enforcing some of the game law. Any thoughts on parking lot?
I'll say let's open it up.
Yeah, I'd say get it done. Why
I
not?
think so too. It's Colleen.
Hey, I don't know about that yet, just because the second thing that you have listed for Schenkel Park, and I know we talked about it last time, is the property lines of Cornerstone. So I don't know that we can open it if, you know, if the trail still goes over somebody else's property. That seems kind of asking for problems. So I think we should address number 2 before we move forward with number 1.
But I think this, I don't don't think you can say, hey, do this. I think the use of the open space fund, this would be a recommendation made to the board to approve. Right?
There's a lot of
I
different
think it's
answers.
gotta go to open space committee.
We lost you, Jay.
So we're just recommending, and then it needs to go through open space and the board of supervisors.
I think so, yeah. I don't
I
think
don't
we
know.
can.
We shouldn't recommend it
Well,
if it's
my
still
thoughts
something.
on that from our last open space meeting is I think we should submit it to the board. Open space says we should get out of our butt, off of our butts and get to work with the money.
Exactly.
But not on somebody else's property. I really think that's a dumb idea. So we're saying go ahead into our park and one of the trails goes over someone's private property.
No, the neighbors more or less have a trail going into the township property. That little section of trail would have to be delineated so, park users stay on our trail. Like
But
we
I'm just
have
maybe,
access.
yeah.
We have a trail coming from Cornerstone into the park, but there's previous trails on that, through several properties that infringe on the township property. So I think that's the issue. It's not that we don't have access on our own property. We do. It's just there's a previous trail there that kind of gets utilized that's not on township property. And Dave's been out there, so I'll let him speak. He's back.
Sorry about that. My computer, there's an electric flash and everything died, and I had to reboot the computer to come back. Did I miss any discussions while I was gone?
Yeah, John was saying, I was saying number 2 says that if the Cornerstone Drive, if part of that trail is going onto someone's private property, I think that's a silly thing to open up the park. If it goes over somebody's private property, is that what that means for number 2?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Number 2 is addressing, there's 2 issues with the trail.
right.
One is part of the trail is on private property. The other is that there's real steep slopes that's not appropriate.
Was
Yeah.
the first one really our
Travel
issue?
only
Did
a
the
day
owners
or
make
so
that
work.
trail, or
What's that?
is the first one really our issue? Did the owners make that trail, or
So there's 2 trails on the site. The one trail, which would be the one coming from the parking lot, is in really pretty good shape. At most, it could use a little bit of trimming, but it's basically a lollipop thing. It goes out, does a loop, and you'd come back.
Okay.
The trail then, and that one's fine. So that would allow us to open the park, have that trail. The other one, if you look at the park like a letter T, the other trail would go down to Cornerstone Drive. There's 2 areas where you can enter that portion down to Cornerstone Drive. The one end has quite a bit on private property. The other end, it's only a couple feet. So depending how you do it. So the one end, we can only close it off on our property. We can't close the trail
Exactly.
off on their property. It's not our property, but
Right.
we would need to close it off at our property. And then we would need to reroute the steep slope and just take it over the corner of where we need to go to stay on our property. So it's really not much of not a great reroute.
You mean it's not so I don't know what you mean. It's not a great reroute. It's not going to be that much, or it's not easy.
Not a
to do?
great deal of labor.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood what you meant.
No, I wasn't very clear there. Sorry. Yeah. So I think if we get in there, get a couple people to just go hang some survey tape, say that, here's where our real new route needs to be, and then get some volunteers to come in and just build that new trail. it's really only going to be a couple days of work. One afternoon to tape it out, and then a day or two to work on it, depending on how many people we have. Then we can get that clarified as well.
Yeah, I think that definitely we need to clarify that before inviting folks. I mean, I use that trail all the time to walk up to my mom's house, and honestly, I just follow the trail that's there. I think I'm on North Coventry property because there's a sign that says so, but it isn't super clear to folks, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna say it's not, because I'm a trail person and I walk on it. I don't know if I'm on the people's property or if I'm on the township property. So that would be a great idea, and I'm happy to help do that, help out. Marking the trail is real clear.
If you stay inside the pink dot, Cynthia, you're on township property, or orange. Township property was marked in orange through there. It's hard to see now in the fall. And we marked it out in the fall last year, or winter, when the leaves were down. So once we get, like, this wouldn't be a project I'm looking to start right away. I think it would go to the board, and we're looking at like a mid to late fall project, probably the same time you would want to start your trail work. You don't want to do that now. It's just real thick and dense in there.
Right.
So, John, for your schedule, if we wouldn't approve this now, that wouldn't mess you up for scheduling? Or would this be a good time for you to move
I want to get
forward?
the parking lot in this season. I mean, if the board approves it and it's good to go, and you're not ready to move forward, at least the board has approved it. It's ready to go. When you say, hey, we're good to go, then I can do it, not wait. Like, you have a meeting and we're waiting 2 more weeks for the board to approve it, or if they have questions, it could be a month, and then it's next spring we do it.
I recommend sending it to the board.
I think if you're looking to do it, hey, get it approved by the board. Let's answer their questions, and then when the time comes to do it, and you're ready, all right, it's approved, it's ready to go, get it done.
Yeah, not every trail has to be. I mean, Coventry Woods, it was open, and there was trails built, 1 per year for the next 7 years, and I mean, it's a little bit of a. We need to make sure it's safe. We need to make sure that it's understandable for the public. But not everything has to complete. We got to get open to allow the, work out the problems with the ATVs, the hunting. That to me is more of a concern than getting the trail work done, really.
And the parking area is probably only going to be about a 4-car parking area with the room we have in there. It's not going to be a large. It's pretty minor, small parking area. But like I said, in my opinion, I'd say send it to the board. They meet again in 2 weeks. If they have questions, hopefully by the end of October, this is resolved. Go ahead, and then, we're end of October, November, maybe we can get it done and coordinate the rest of the trail work.
And that's the perfect time to address the trail work is, come November, once the leaves are down.
So when we make the recommendation to the board, can we say we want to recommend doing the parking lot after we're sure we clearly mark where the private property is, so nobody walks on the people's private property? Is it the
private property is already marked?
But okay,
all the survey and the marking was done last winter.
so then why is it written on this agenda? I mean, if it's already taken care of.
Well, I guess it's marked, but the
We
trail may
haven't-
still be there.
We haven't done anything to formally close or reroute the trails.
Okay, so I think that we should make sure that if we suggest it to the board, we should say we're gonna suggest it, but we want to make sure that we're not going on the properties. These folks are my neighbors, so I don't, if they don't want people on them, I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to make sure the public's not going on their property.
Yeah,
We don't even know if it's going to get approved by the board, so let's send it to the board to get started. I mean, he said
Right.
late fall, we have
totally
time to
okay
get
with
out
that.
there.
I'm totally okay with that, as long as it has the wording that we're going to make sure that it's not on private property, because that would be inappropriate and not responsible.
Who made the trails?
That's what I was just going to say. Can I ask?
Who made the trails? We didn't make the trails.
Sarah, honestly, the people that moved into that home did not make those trails.
But
Right.
is it our
Brought it
responsibility?
forward.
Is it our responsibility?
But then,
to
yeah,
make
exactly.
sure
Is it
that-
our responsibility?
Or do we need to tell them to go get some purple paint and mark the private property? I mean, if the trails meet up with ours and we're marking our trails, is it our responsibility or the owner's responsibility to make sure that their trails are not, going into ours? Whose responsibility is it? As long as ours are marked,
Well,
that's what
I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to
I'm
get
just,
through.
I
then-
bought the 10 acres here and I had trails and I had people walking on my property. I put up signs saying no trespassing. And guess what? Nobody comes on my property anymore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to be good neighbors. That's what we
Right.
do. And actually, I don't know the folks. If you know them, Cynthia, maybe we can sit down and talk with them. I made one attempt. I just drug a log across a trail to close it, and somebody moved it, and there was ATV tracks that opened it up again. So that wasn't enough to tell people it wasn't open. I mean, it was, we can do signage. The landowners can do signage. There's a whole list of options.
Yep, that's all I'm asking
We
for.
do
I
what
think
they
that's great.
do, and that's what we need to do to manage a park. I mean, that's park management. That's what we have to do. But we also
So that's
need
a good
to-
idea. So someone can get in touch with the neighbor whose trail kind of crosses over to ours, and then maybe sit down and talk about it. Would that be a step to get this going, but to make an effort to speak with the township residents?
Yeah, so let me just make, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything. I'm just saying, when I go through that path, I go down the street, I see a path, I walk up it with my kids, and then I'm up on Schenkel Road. And we see this, the painted purple trees, which is helpful. But in the beginning, I don't, and I don't know that I'm doing anything wrong. So as a North Coventry resident, I don't know that I'm doing anything wrong, and I very well may be, because I don't know if that's a North Coventry trail or if it's not. So I understand, Sarah, that you're saying, well, they should go put it up. Maybe we need to say mark where our trail is. I mean, like Jay, I agree with you. We need to put some signs up or something just so that people know. Because I'm saying, I'm sitting here and I want to have a parking lot there, and I agree with that. I think we should send it to the board. I'm just saying, I think we should send it to the board with the knowledge that we need to take care of making clear where the trails actually are. That's all. I'm not trying to argue with anyone, actually.
So why don't we plan it? Do you know the people personally, Cynthia?
I can feel free to go talk to the one person. I mean, the person that's on my street that I spoke to about this before. But I know that there's another trail that I don't think you guys are discussing. That's a private trail that goes from someone's house to that trail. And I don't know that there's been any complaint with that, but I wouldn't know. I mean, that would be a township question.
How about we do this? Let's move forward, taking this, make the recommendation to take it to the board. And then why don't you and I meet out there? We can walk the trails. You can
That's
then
fine.
see
I can do it.
get an idea where the property lines are. Anybody else wants to come, we can even use that as the start, where we do our reroutes and, what do we close off, give everybody a better understanding, but get the ball in motion here a little bit. Make sense?
Yeah, I want to
And
make
then
sure that,
we can meet with the neighbors too. I mean, we can,
yeah,
have a dialogue with them.
right. We suggested to the,
Once it's approved, it's just a coordination effort between you and I.
right,
When we
okay.
do it. That's, in my eyes, that's
Mhm.
what I'm looking at, so.
Can we just make sure that our recommendation is that we put in the thing, and at the same time or before we put in the parking lot, we determine the property lines?
We have that.
Property lines are already determined, so
The trail then, the trail
so
that goes on the property lines.
complete the trail reroutes. Yeah,
If it's not going to take long, we can just go do it. I'm happy to tell me when. And then, sorry, I'll let that one close. Is that,
okay. So Sarah, did you make a motion then to
I make a motion, send it to the
recommend
board.
building the parking lot and rerouting the trail?
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second, Colleen.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we'll get a memo to the board. And then we'll work on meeting the neighbor. You know, it could be one of those things that they don't care if we use it, but I don't think it's a good idea that we do, just because liabilities, we shouldn't blur the lines between public and private property, you know, without an easement. Even if they say we can use it, I don't think we should. We should either have an easement or we should reroute it. So a conversation with them is a good neighborly way to start. And, you know, if they care to post it, they can post there's no trespassing. We can close it on our lines. We can't close their trail. We can only close it at our
Right.
lines. So
Okay.
we'll have to talk to them and
Sounds
see
good.
what they want to do.
All right. Hey, so sorry, it's me again to be a pain, I guess. The steep slope that we're talking about on Cornerstone Drive, is that where all the water like constantly is rushing down onto Cornerstone Drive? John, maybe you know that answer more, but every time I walk up there, there's lots, like, you know, it's always mushy.
No, that's not the steep slope. The steep slope is when you come off the wet spot and you go up the hill, you can either bear left a little bit, and it's a
I
really
know
nice trail, which is the part that's on private property, the really nice trail. It's a shame.
Mhm.
Or you can kind of go straight up.
And
And
that's
it's
that,
a
right?
real short, steep section. That's the steep slope that's a problem.
Okay.
And
Well,
it's
then
right
there,
before you meet the Wilson Trail at the top.
all right, then we should also keep in our eye, or next time if anyone's able to go out there and take a peek, it's real wet there on Cornerstone Drive. It's like it's every rain, there's everything running off of there.
The
On the-
whole, like every bit of footage of our property is wet. And there's a gas pipeline in there too. So we have to be a little bit careful of what we do. But it seems that whole thing is really kind of wet, like from end to end.
But if it's going on the street, that's what I'm, I'm saying, we gotta take a peek at.
Yeah.
But that's all, that's a street issue.
Yeah, well, that should be addressed as well, how we try to manage that wet spot, because it will have to be managed to some degree. Okay, anybody that wants to, play along to look at the reroute route for that trail, let me know. We can head down there and hang some survey tape.
All right. Let me know, Jay. I'd like to take a walk.
Okay? Okay. That completes the section on facilities. So we'll move on to programming. Looks like there's no way we can do a Coventry Woods Festival or a bonfire. There's really just too many unanswered questions and infection rates in areas that, we don't want to irresponsibly ask people to gather for a public event. Special Events Committee has addressed doing a Fernbrook Derby so that we have a 2020 winner, and try to use that, call it a made for TV or made for YouTube event, where it would not be a public event. The date would not be announced. We would just have the goat clubs come in. Jim Marks has offered to do the videotaping and editing to make a YouTube video, I guess you'd call it. Along with that, we'd also like to recognize our funding partners, namely Chester County and DCNR. Let them know that we are using the park for public recreation. Ask for some videotaped comments from them and make that part of the video. Erica has offered to do the judging of the race. John Hippel's been our judge for the past few years, but he has some Sunday commitments, and we probably do it on a Sunday afternoon. If any members of the park commission want to be involved, let me know. And, I'm just going to basically set up the course. Anybody wants to come play along, like I said, not a public event, but just a township event. Any thoughts on that? Anybody
So
have
it's
a
kind of
drink they
like
want to bring?
what we talked about in the beginning, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, there's especially in Chester County, there's been a lot of changes from the commissioners through the directors of a lot of departments, and I think opening some engagement with them during this period of time would be a helpful communication. And there's been some new marketing things done in the county that I think we can take our YouTube event and put it on some of the county things and kind of build that relationship between our funding partners. So should be a kind of a nice little event to let people know that we're still there, and
I think it sounds great.
that we didn't die, and we're still there, and we'll be back in the future. So yeah, anyone that wants to come out for that, let me know your availability, and we'll confirm a date probably for October again, trying to get it when the weather is conducive before it gets too cold. So let me know. And lastly, education programs. We had discussed briefly during the last meeting about doing some education. The woman who had approached me kind of went radar silent. She's not really followed up about the program she wanted to offer. Is anybody else interested in doing any programs? I know the EAC has been doing some virtual programming. Does anybody have any thoughts or interest? If not, we'll pass.
I would love to do that. I just need to get a little time that I have not found yet. If anybody else wants to work with me with it, I'm happy to do that as well. I absolutely want to get an educational program. And I just tonight got an email that my son's preschool's not meeting. So I think there's a little group that I can contact to at least get some takers this time around.
Okay, well, let's discuss it maybe offline and, see how we want to try to tie that into our parks and our community, and we'll go from there. Wow, that's
Sounds
kind of a record time.
Hey, Jay.
Yes, Vince.
Hey, sorry I was late because of the class. I wanted to take you back to Coventry Woods real quick. Did we need to discuss maybe for next year is that we have to redo the lighting. That storm took down all those poles. The lights no longer are on the basketball court.
Yes, we did briefly discuss that.
Okay, I didn't see it on the agenda. So I guess we just need to figure out, either bring it up to the committee who handles the lodge or take it upon ourselves. But I think John was mentioning maybe putting up the power underground instead of putting up the telephone pole again and routing it that way. So.
Yeah, I think the place to start is to talk to the staff, talk to John and Erica, and get some ideas. Then we can kind of add some support in there and see where we want to go. I think when I was typing up the notes, I just typed up the trees were removed, and we talked a little bit about the trees being down, but I don't think it was the pole being down, the wires, but that wasn't addressed. So.
Remember, Stan gave us a quote on the lighting stuff. I think his name was Stan, wasn't it? He gave us a quote on those lights.
Yes.
So
Stan Stubbe had.
Yeah.
He's the township lighting engineer.
So we could, whenever we decide to do it, we have some ideas on what the lighting we could use to replace there. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any other comments?
I just want to let everybody know for the butterfly garden at Kenilworth Park. I am meeting Patty tomorrow, Patty Worth, and let me see if I get it right, Jesse Schiffler.
Yeah. Jesse Schiffler.
Jesse Schiffler. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just to go over some ideas and take a look at it so we can progress with it. That's it.
Good. Be nice to see that unified and completed again.
Jay, 2 reminders, August minutes and bat boxes.
Thank you, John. So, Vince, since you're online, is Patty online too?
I am.
Okay. We did not have the people who are at the last meeting here to approve the minutes from the last meeting. So now that we're all here,
Oh,
is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August meeting? And that would
So
only be
moved.
from 4 of us.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Cynthia raised her hand.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Should be lots of abstentions.
We should have abstentions for anybody that wasn't at the meeting.
Abstain.
Okay. So we can say the minutes of the August meeting are also approved. And we
Is that
also,
considered a meeting if there wasn't a quorum? Is it still a meeting that minutes need to be taken?
still a meeting, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we met, we just, we didn't vote on anything.
Okay.
There's some of the things like the river bend trees, those things got pushed off because of, not having a quorum, but yeah, we still met.
All right. Just a question.
So Vince, any report on bat box design?
I had a bad box in Patty's trunk. I forgot to pick it up.
I told him tonight when we got to our meeting, I said, the bat box is in my trunk. If you don't remind me, I will drive home with it, which is exactly what happened.
Okay, so can we say that Patty is donating a bat box?
Patty and John, yes.
Patty and John Worth are donating a bat box, and we can provide that box to John McKee, and he can determine the best way of mounting a box of that size and weight. Is that okay with you, John?
Yeah, just give me a location where you want it.
Yep. We can
We'll
do
figure that
If
out.
you can-
We'll get that to you.
If you can determine what size pipe and everything is suitable for the size and weight of the box.
It has to be, what, 12 feet high at a minimum?
Yes.
At a minimum, yeah.
Patty
John,
and John, thank you for that donation.
You are welcome. I'll be happy to see it put to use. John, I will be in Hanover Meadows tomorrow. I can drop that off if you'd like.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other comments? All right, that means we can
Yeah,
This is record time. I'd
adjourn
like
the
to-
meeting. We can all brush our teeth and go right to bed. We'll be there before 9 o'clock.
Wow.
hello.
Sounds
I have-
good.
I have a comment from Open Space.
Is this an open space report?
Yeah, this is mostly what Open Space took up, was why Parks and Rec isn't moving faster with the lodge renovations. What's the holdup?
Because it's really kind of in the hands of the lodge committee.
We'll take it, right?
Well,
Along.
the
No?
way Open Space talked, they're waiting for direction from Parks and Rec.
I can just, let me speak on that quick. Bids are getting open next Wednesday for the siding and window replacement on the lodge. So that we'll have bids for that next week, and then that'll move to the board for approval, whether that gets done or not. So they're looking to begin that project, depending on the bids, this fall.
Okay, hopefully if we get those bids out, we can move forward on that. And then the next thing would be starting to do the interior design, what type of lighting, which Stan Stubbe's already made some recommendations, drywall, kitchen, those things. So,
And those things all should be passed on to open space. They're asking for a report, activity, a schedule of what's happening.
okay, I think we'll need to clarify with Erica exactly how the lodge committee and open space and parks, there's still, I think, a little confusion to
There's a lot of confusion.
who's taking what steps. So we'll ask Erica to clarify that, which I'm sure she will.
Who is on the lodge committee?
Spencer, Harvey, myself / Patty, Chris. It was Kevin, now it's Erica, John.
How many of those people are on the open space committee?
Chris
Spencer.
And Spence,
and Spencer.
Okay, well, that might be your issue right there. And they're,
Spencer's the chair of the committee.
yes.
well, are they doing anything? Are you guys doing anything? I don't know. How does that, well, we don't have to get into it, but
Carl, at the last BOS meeting, I actually asked if there was going to be another scheduled meeting of the lodge committee.
oh, wait, yeah, you had mentioned this months and months ago that you guys never meet.
Yeah, and I mentioned it again just at the last BOS meeting and got no traction.
And what they're asking for is something that they can look at, physically see, to see what kind of program, what's the destination of the lodge. You know, yeah, we got a half decent roof on it now, and we got some restrooms in it, but what's the overall plan and direction? And, Chris, Spence, they seem to not know, looking for advice from Parks and Rec.
So is it, they want advice from Parks and Rec, then it has to go to the lodge committee, and
Well,
then
they
it's going
wanna
to go to the Board of
yeah.
Supervisors for approval?
No, they want to see some direction, recommendation, what the plans are for Parks and Rec using the lodge.
Plans were drawn,
my-
physical
my
plans
comment
for the
was, well, I
facility were
think
drawn
that's
up by
what-
the architect. So those were already seen. The architect made plans for everything already. We can't know how somebody's going to rent it. We don't know if it's going to be rented for a wedding, a birthday party, an anniversary. When there's a rental of a facility, you can't know in advance exactly what those rentals will be.
They want to know the facilities and a plan. They want to see more of ideas from Parks and Rec. That's what
All right,
was
so
discussed
we've done
in the
this,
meeting.
John, we've done this, and Jay, we've done this before. We've done it numerous times. So they want to know what we plan on, hoping that it's going to be used for, socializing, events, whatever it is. So we've already gone through this, but so that can be on one of our agendas. Do you want the lodge committee, or do you want Parks and Recreation to come up with ideas again of how it's going to be used? Because I guess I could go back 10 years and try to pull out those minutes of
Oh,
the
yeah.
20 different
I mean,
things that we said we wanted it to be used for again.
I think there's a chain of command here to follow. Like if open space committee is asking, open space chairman should maybe, email or send something to the board or manager and follow that procedure. And then, No.
I agree with John there. The issue is only Erica can get these contractors to, give quotes. And we were just in a pandemic. She just came on board. Is that what you want to do to your new township manager, is say, hey, we need quotes for the lodge for siding and windows? So that's where it stands right now.
I can tell you from our pre-con meeting with our contractors the other day, I think there's going to be a little more proactive approach about, trying to get things done, or, what the overall use is going to be, determining that, what types of finishes, things like that, so we can begin to move forward. So I think if you give it a little time here, that process is going to move ahead a little bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, they got the septic in, they got bathrooms in, they got ADA accessibility, they got the roof on. I mean, things have been moving. But
Is that what you were
at this
looking for,
point-
John? Is that what they're looking for? Progress on
What's
the
that?
building?
No, they basically know the progress.
Okay, so they're looking on the use of the
They
building.
want to
and
know,
plans.
just like we would like to know, we would like to have known exactly when the building was going to be completed. They would like to have some kind of year that the lodge is going to be made available. That's what they're looking for. They would like to know when this lodge project, an estimate of the completion and the availability of the lodge.
Is that on anywhere on the 5-year plan, Jay?
Did not see it.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
That's on there somewhere.
It is.
I thought so.
The interior is addressed on the 5-year plan because the exterior has already been addressed.
Okay.
And I don't remember if it's the 1 year or the 3 year. I don't know. But again, all that is a list for Michael to start doing his planning. It doesn't mean if it's on the 3-year list, it doesn't mean we can't do it sooner. Or it doesn't mean we can't push it back further. If it's on the 1-year list. It's a guideline for him to plan his scheduling and grant searches.
All right. So it is, so we do have a type of plan, at least a start of a plan, correct?
Yeah, the
All
whole
right.
kitchen
There you go,
laid
John.
out. The architect did all that. It's all the lighting engineer gave recommendations for lighting. I mean, it's virtually all been done. It just needs to move forward. And so hopefully, as John said, it will begin to move forward.
Once the lodge is done, the big issue is parking. I mean, if you want a wedding there with 100 people, where are they going to park? This was a camp that they just dropped their kids off and there's no parking.
So the
that's the next
area
issue.
right next to the lodge, kind of where we do the bonfire,
Yeah.
that was slated as the parking lot.
Okay.
Now, obviously, it means if we have an asphalt parking lot there, we won't be able to park cars or won't be able to do a bonfire there anymore. But that's the area that was slated as the parking lot.
Originally. Yeah.
And the handicapped spaces are on the other side of the lodge where the ramp came in.
Right.
So on call it the lower side of the lodge would be the main parking, with the handicap parking on the upper side of the lodge.
How many spots can you get in there?
Well, the question is the capacity of the building.
Right.
Deb Russo did that years ago too.
Yeah, I
and
know,
I
it was
don't know where
done.
the numbers are.
But what I'm saying is that all these pieces are floating around somewhere and should be gathered up and put in some kind of form that people can look at it and say, oh, okay, all these things are being worked on. You know, right now you got to pull from the apple tree, the peach tree, cherry tree, and kind of put it all together, and you get a bunch of a fruit salad finally. And right now, right now they're all out on the trees and they're not in the salad. You can't look at one thing and come up with any kind of conclusions on where and when we're going to get there.
Okay, thank you, John.
That's it from open space.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Yeah, if you and Cynthia are meeting, so look at that trail. I'm willing to be there also. Just let me know when. Just
Okay,
a lot of them
Yeah.
work out and,
sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, we can have a little gathering. I'll send out an email about when I'm not working sometime, if we can plan a morning.
All right. Do we have a second? My motion
I'll
to
second.
adjourn.
All right, Sarah motions for a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. It was Colleen,
Opposed?
but Sarah seconded, but we'll do it. Sorry.
Opposed? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming out, and stay healthy, and let me know if you need anything or have any thoughts about the parks.
Good night.
Good night.